Week 3 of Pokemon Unite Championship Series Regional League action is in the books. I am Vaelor, and we're here to take a look at the pick, win, and ban rate of each Pokemon on a global scale, and then we'll deep dive into what each of the regions are looking at, top 10 and beyond. We'll take a look at what's rising, what's falling, and where your favorite Pokemon fits in the current competitive meta. Let's jump in. Starting off with our global meta, taking a look at the pick rate. Primarily, number one spot is occupied by Mewtwo Y. This is not a surprise. This comes to pretty much every game that it's available for. Right now, it's sitting at a 53.28% win rate. Again, after week 3, this is combining all 3 weeks of action into one. Week 1, we saw both Mewtwo Y and Mewtwo X, but obviously Mewtwo X was nerfed, and so Mewtwo Y persists. It's risen 8.02% in the last week. So right now sitting at the number 1 slot. No surprise to anyone at number 2 is Blastoise. This thing is a monster, even in the ranked series. 3.52% increase over the past week to right now at 50.41% utilization. If it makes it through bans, it's likely to join a team. Psyduck, number 3, 45.08%, still on the rise. The duck is a demon. We all are aware of that, but it is the primary support mon that's not a healer that comes into play whenever it comes to these the competitive scene. Eldegoss, obviously primary healer right now, a little bit of a slip week over week, but right now sitting at 44.26% utilization. Vaporeon, this one is on the decline after a couple of nerfs, after a couple of balance adjustments to Vaporeon, but it is still a monster even in the competitive scene. Where it's been primarily affected, you can see it's sitting neck and neck. It's number 5 both in picks and bans, but the ban rate is slipping tremendously. And so there's a potential that if there are even more nerfs, or if it is not prioritized in bans, that it could actually see more utilization. It could actually grow on the global scale. Snorlax, number 2 defender overall, or number 3 defender overall, coming in at 36.89% utilization, slipping just a little bit week over week. Hoopa on the rise, 10% increase, 34.43%. Crustle, this is a big one, big gainer. Obviously, with some of the more focused teams focusing down, Blastoise, is a number 1 pick for defender for a lot of the competitive teams at the moment. 33.61% utilization. Mimikyu is another Pokemon that's making it into a lot of the compositions that we see, whether, it's known for its rip. It's known for bringing a ton of that rip potential, both in objectives and in team fights. It is a scary Pokemon to face. It is also number 9 in ban rate. Ban rate did significantly increase week over week, 34.78% increase. Right now sitting at about a quarter of the games that it has the potential to get banned for, it is banned. And Mega Gyarados, obviously this thing is a monster. You'll see it on all 3 lists in the top 10. It comes in at number 10 for pick rate, but that is only because it has such a massive ban rate. Right now, 53.69% across the globe, 48.1% change week over week, and it is also number 3 in win rate. So let's jump into the win rate. Let's take a look at what's winning right now. Galarian Rapidash, we didn't see this barely used at all in week 1. Week 2, we started to see it utilized. Week 3, it's really started to shine. Win rate is pretty massive for it at the moment. Let's see where it's lying on the pick rate side. It actually did decrease week over week. Right now, only about 5% utilization. Again, primarily because it wasn't brought at all in week 1, and with the sample size, it has some catching up to do. It's also not necessarily the most meta pick, but it is winning to a lot of the matchups that it ends up coming to. Decidueye, this is one that's not in the top 10 in terms of pick rate, but it is coming about 6.15% of the time. In a couple of different compositions. I've actually seen both the Spirit Shackle and the Razor Leaf builds in this. No change week over week, which means it won the same amount of games as it lost. And then in terms of where it's at, it was brought to the same number, and it basically does not get banned at all. It's at a 0% ban rate. So it doesn't get banned, makes it through bans for pretty significantly, but when it comes, it wins. Mega Gyarados, we already talked about. It's got a tremendous amount of power. If it makes it through the bans, it is probably going to get picked. And if it gets picked, it is probably going to win. 71.62% win rate for Mega Gyarados right now. One of the biggest gainers that we saw in week 3 was Urshifu. This is one that is not brought a ton. It hasn't been brought a ton, but it is on the increase, 6% increase week over week. It's picked about 11.89% of the time overall, and it is winning almost 70% of the time. Big increase in terms of win rate for Urshifu. We saw a lot of really awesome comps utilize this both across LATAM and in the EU for Urshifu. Latias, obviously a more like a attack supporter, and it gets used a ton. Let's see where it sits in the utilization. Where are we seeing Latias? No, I'm overlooking it here. There it is, 6.15% utilization across the globe, but it is winning about 66% of the time. So about 2/3 of the time that it is brought, it wins. Mr. Mime, this is one that we know Bruv is going to play pretty consistently. Low utilization on Mime overall, but it is winning whenever it comes. Let's see where it sits in the pick rate. Not seeing it in the pick rate, but it does get picked occasionally, and whenever it does, it wins. Big, massive change in terms of its win rate as it gets brought more, 142% increase week over week. Alolan Raichu right now winning about 65.22% of the time. It is currently only picked about 9.43% of the time right down here, and so that's something that we want to make sure we keep an eye on Alolan Raichu as an attacker coming out of most of the time. You see it used a lot in the jungle. There's a couple of the attackers, jungle players who favor it, and they do really well. Talonflame, another one that gets picked occasionally. It gets banned some of the time, but it is winning. It's at number 8 right now overall. Did see a decline in terms of win rate week over week. Right now coming in at about 17.21% pick rate for Talonflame. Trevenant is another big winner from this last week. Big rise in terms of win rate. Right now winning just over 60% of its matchups and not coming to a ton of the compositions, only 13.52% of the time it gets picked. Umbreon, this is a big story coming out of week 3. Umbreon banned going into week 3. It's been allowed the past 2 weeks, of action, and yet in week 3, kind of in the 11th hour, it was announced that they were going to ban Umbreon from being utilized. So this changed a ton of the compositions that we normally saw. It had a huge decrease in terms of win rate, still in the top 10, and then it plummeted also on the pick rate side of things. In addition, I'll find it in just a second. But it fell on the pick side. It also fell in ban rate. It's still pretty high in terms of ban rate. There's Mr. Mime in terms of pick rate, 6.15% on the pick rate side. And then, let's see. There it is, jumping right out at me, sitting right now at number 13 for pick rate. So 28.69%, about a 50% reduction in terms of its pick rate over the week over week, which is something that is to be expected. Obviously, it not being allowed in competitive play for the UCS is a pretty big deal, and so it definitely affected the compositions that were brought. It also affected the ban rate. Ban rate plummeted as well, but still at 17.62%, which is huge. So that's the top 10 in terms of win rate, pick rate. Ban rate is very similar for everything that we've talked about. Mewtwo obviously picked a ton. It is currently not winning as often as you would think. There was a bit of an increase week over week, about 22%. Right now, 45.38% win rate for Mewtwo Y. Mega Charizard Y is another one that gets picked about 11% of the time, 11.5%. It wins about 50% of the time, but it is number 3 in ban rate. People don't want to play this, and it's very obvious why. We talked about Vaporeon. Psyduck obviously is a monster. It's currently sitting at number 7. Scizor, people don't want to play the Scyther build, and so that's one that is banned fairly often, 27.46% of the time. So about consistent week over week. And then Mimikyu, one that is picked consistently wins a ton and gets banned very, very often. Another one, and notable mentions on the ban side, Miraidon is one that gets banned fairly consistently. There was a bit of a decline, but 13.52% of the time it gets banned. And then another couple of other risers from this past weekend. Blissey jumping 28.57%. Has an 11%, almost 12% ban rate. Saraledge is another one that after the buffs is seeing a ton of ban. It's also seeing a pretty significant pick rate. Continues to climb 20% right now overall, but about a 16.67%. Don't make any jokes in the global meta. So that's the global meta at the moment. Let's jump in and start taking a look at the regional action. So starting off in the EU, fairly consistent in terms of the top performing Pokemon. Mega Lucario obviously topping the ban rate in both the global and the regional meta. Same thing with Mewtwo Y topping the list in terms of pick rate. Decidueye jumps to number 1, and Galarian Rapidash, it is about the same as it was in the previous, in terms of the global meta. They just jumped number 1 and number 2 spots, although they are tied in terms of win rate. Talonflame number 3 in the EU, Umbreon number 4, Mega Gyarados number 5, Trevenant and Garchomp number 6 and 7, Blaziken 63% at number 8, Lucario, base Lucario, not Mega, is at number 9, and then Crustle is at number 10. Mewtwo Y obviously tops the pick rate. Crustle is in number 2, so Crustle performing really well whenever it is picked. About 50% of the time, it will win almost 61% of the time. Mew at the moment is another really powerful pick. Attackers and defenders up at the top 3. So 44% pick rate. It is winning right now at about 47.22%, and it does get banned just at the 12th spot, so about 12.35%. Hoopa, number 1 in terms of the support Pokemon that come through. This is obviously a playmaker, one that a lot of teams rely on for mobility around the map or for effectiveness in team fights. Blaziken still on a bit of a rise, which is a surprise after some of its nerfs, specifically taking away its Unstoppable. 37.04% utilization in the EU. Psyduck at number 6 with 37% utilization. Blastoise and Mega Gyarados tied for pick rate. Both are on the rise in the EU. Mimikyu at 34.57%, and then Mamoswine rounds out the top 10. In terms of notability, Garchomp has a really high win rate and a huge increase week over week in terms of win rate, about equivalent to what Mega Gyarados jumped up with in the EU. Blaziken also continuing to rise, and then Crustle is another fairly big surprise. Notables outside the top 10, though, something that is it was a little bit surprising to me, is rise in base Gyarados. Seeing a lot more play, especially in the EU, 19.75% utilization. Same thing with Garchomp, continuing to climb. These numbers in terms of change are a little bit easier to look at than the win rate. This is such a small sample size. This is a little bit more balanced, so there are some fairly big swings, but you can start to look at some trends with the numbers here overall. Those were the main significant ones that I felt like were effective to call out on the EU side of things. Let's jump over to LATAM. In the LATAM region, what we're looking at in terms of pick rate, Eldegoss at number 1. I don't know about you, but I was a little bit surprised by this. The bans are fairly consistent with what you would expect in the top 10. Same thing a little bit with win rate. We'll get there in a second, but Eldegoss being the number 1 pick. A favorite supporter in the LATAM region. Blastoise at number 2. Mewtwo Y jumps down to number 3 from its global position. Vaporeon still seeing a lot of play in LATAM. Miraidon is another one that has jumped up, and it sees a ton of play consistently in LATAM. Psyduck, obviously in the global meta as well as the regional one. Snorlax, Inteleon, another one to call out in the top 10, sitting at number 8 with 35% utilization. Mega Gyarados obviously is a monster no matter where it's at. It's banned 62% of the time, but it gets played 30.59%. Machamp is another one that we're seeing get picked frequently and a little bit more often, about a 12.5% rise week over week. Saraledge is another one in LATAM that continues to get play along with Blaziken, both of them seeing some significant increases. Crustle and Hoopa, another common one. Hoopa obviously was number 3 in EU, is all the way down at number 16 or 17 in LATAM. But Crustle is seeing some significant increases in terms of playability. A couple of other ones to call out: Trevenant with a 37.5% increase. And then in terms of some losers, obviously Umbreon with the bans, not able to be played, but Mewtwo X just continues to plummet without a lot of utilization at all in week 3, hardly at all in week 2. And so LATAM just continuing to utilize it a lot in week 1, not nearly as much in week 2 and week 3. Urshifu tops the win rate in LATAM, 75%, huge jump for Urshifu. Like I mentioned, this is one of the primary regions that had it played a ton in week 3. Mega Gyarados, obviously a monster no matter where it's at. Vaporeon still getting some play and increasing in terms of performance. Palmot is another one that stood out to me. It's seeing a little bit less utilization week over week, but still at about 13%. This is one that you will see, I think, continue to rise as an all-rounder that gets used fairly consistently across the different regions. Mega Charizard X, this is one that surprised me a little bit, but not so much with LATAM. It does see some utilization, right now sitting at about 11.67%, same as Mega Charizard Y, but it doesn't get banned. And that's the other thing that is of note here. Literally never banned in LATAM, but does see a lot of utilization and is currently number 5 in win rate in the region. Blastoise, obviously a high performer no matter where it's at. Trevenant, big jump in terms of change week over week to 55.56%. Hoopa in the same boat. We talked about those over on the pick rate side of things. Inteleon is number 8 in terms of pick rate, and it wins about 53% of the time. Eldegoss, same thing, about 53% of the time, and it is the number 1 overall choice in LATAM. Let's take a final look at the NA region. All right, taking a look at NA. In terms of number 1 pick, Psyduck, no one is surprised by this. It has seen a ton of utilization recently, about 57.69%, increasing almost 14.5%. Week over week. Blastoise still seeing high utilization, about 50% of the time. It is also number 3 in ban rates, and it is outside of the top 10. It is all the way down. We're down here at 43.59% win rate. So interesting to note. Vaporeon continuing to see decline in utilization in NA, but it was a primary pick. Same thing with Umbreon. If they made it through bans, they were likely going to be part of the team comp. Mewtwo Y continuing to perform, regardless of where it's at, globally or in the region. Snorlax in the same boat, number 6 in terms of pick rate. Hoopa at number 7 at 41%, still increasing week over week. This is a strong performer in all regions, and especially in the NA. Mimikyu also seeing a lot of high utilization. This is one that Vin from EG is noted for. Saw a lot of really high success with this Pokemon. Eldegoss, what was number 1 in LATAM, is number 9 in NA. Inteleon still seeing a ton of play in NA as well. In terms of some notable increases on the pick side, Mega Charizard Y, if it makes it through draft, is picked, and is something that is still seeing some increases in its pick rate as it starts to become a little bit less contested on the band side. Miraidon saw a lot of utilization in week 1, a little bit less in week 2, and a little bit less in week 3. So just a descending trend for Miraidon overall. Machamp is another one that continues to rise. I mentioned it, I called it out. It was in the top 10 for LATAM. It is going to be seeing some more play as a hard counter to these unstoppable Pokemon. 13.64% increase, sitting at just under 18%. And then in terms of other significant risers, Buzzwole seeing some more play overall. Blaziken as well seeing some more play inside of NA. And then in addition, like I mentioned, Palmot, still at under 9% utilization, but a 30% increase week over week. Same thing with Armarouge. These two are really interesting picks for me. Interesting to see them get played in competitive. Love it. I love whenever teams bring some different comps and try to strategize in the draft in order to bring some effective mons to the table. For win rate, Alolan Raichu sitting at number 4, Machamp it's at number 3. And so this is something that I think teams are going to start to take note of, realize that it fits into a lot of the different compositions that they want to bring, and so they'll start to bring it more often now that they know that it's winning. Blaziken is another one that, in spite of the nerfs, teams are still continuing to play and perform really well with. Urshifu, like I mentioned, was shining in the LATAM region. It was very high on the win rate side. It is number 5 in win rate in NA, and it is getting picked about 10% of the time, a little bit less than what it was, but continuing to perform on the win rate. Umbreon obviously banned, so continuing to plummet. Vaporeon is another one that after the nerfs saw a lot of utilization when it could in week 1 and week 2, starting to see less and less in week 3. Blissey as a primary healer is one that a lot of teams like to bring in different compositions, actually having a higher win rate than Eldegoss, even though it is picked less often. Right now picked only at about 15.38%. Inteleon, the sniper, continuing to perform really well in terms of win rate. It is also at number 10 for pick rate. So this is a mon that hardly ever banned. I do think it did see some bans. It did about 11.54% of the time, but not a significant ban rate, and continuing to decline in spite of its performance. In terms of notables on the ban rate side, nothing really stood out other than at least in NA, other than Hoopa starting to jumps into the top 10. It's tied with Mimikyu and Psyduck in terms of ban rate, but it seems to be something that's targeted specifically as there are some excellent Hoopa players inside of the NA region. And then in terms of other significant gainers, Slowbro making its way a little bit onto the scene for about a 12.82% ban rate, and then no other real notables, at least in NA. Now, you might be wondering where I'm getting a lot of this data. I started off by manually scrubbing through VODs and manually recording the pick rate for each Pokemon, just deciding whether it won or not after seeing the results. Same thing with manually tracking bans. I have upgraded a little bit in terms of scraping UniteAPI and then verify that with the VODs itself to make sure that the players and the data from the match is actually recorded as well. So I will start to publish some content around top performing players, who's doing the best in terms of score, KOs, assists, damage dealt, damage tanked, and damage healed. Those are videos that I definitely want to be able to produce on a weekly basis as the Pokemon Unite Championship Series Regional League specifically carries on, and as we look at some of the international tournaments that are coming up, building up into Worlds, it'll be effective to take a look at that data to see and make some predictions based on how the teams are going to perform. So it's all tracked in this spreadsheet that I have over here, and it's something that I think is it's effective to be able to parse out some of the data and have some conversations around. Obviously, draft is only one phase of the game. There's still the performance of the game itself, but it is interesting to see some of the trends and how they line up with the meta in ranked. Competitive is its own game in my mind. There's variability that's not taken into account in terms of, whenever you have solo queue or duo queue in mind, whenever you're bringing 5 stacks, there's always going to be a bevy of Pokemon that kind of clump near the top as teams vie for specific combinations and the strategies that they look to implement on the stage whenever they're playing each other in the regional league and then as well as internationally, and that's where you can see sort of the styles start to clash, and you get some effective team building, some effective strategy that I think is a lot of fun to take note of and to take a look at. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to start to produce content like this, to be able to start to parse out and see how Pokemon are performing week over week. I can take a look at the raw data and be able to see, which team picks who. I can see matchup data. All of that is really fun and effective. If you'd be interested in seeing any of that content, please comment it down below. I would love to be able to connect with this community, be able to understand what sort of content you want to be able to see consistently. And if this is something that's interesting to you, please be sure to leave a like. Please subscribe to the channel. I look forward to bringing you continued deep dives into the Pokemon Unite scene and the Pokemon Unite action, especially on the competitive side. I appreciate you all, and I will talk to you soon.